Hey guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article that really shows the saying, no good deed goes unpunished comes into play. And basically in this article, it's going to talk about how this guy, he was friends with this woman in medical school. And he agreed to donate sperm if later on in life she didn't get married, but she wanted to have kids. So he donated sperm to her. And as it turns out, 20 years later, she's now suing him for child support and things like that, because obviously things got hard once she had teenage kids. It was 20 years ago that they made this agreement, but she obviously didn't have the insemination until later on in time. And the worst part about this is that, number one, they were friends. In his mind, they were friends. But number two, this guy didn't just donate and disappear from the scene. This guy really tried to be a good guy, a nice guy in their lives by, putting away a little money for them for education and what else? Financing some trips and things like that. They kind of referred to him as an uncle. He was a part of their lives. He knew him for a little bit. But the thing is that clearly that wasn't enough. And she now wants to get all this money from the guy. And again, they were friends and he was trying to help her out. And you're going to see in this article also that it's not like she's in the poorhouse. She makes really good money, but it doesn't matter. She sees an opportunity and she's going for it. And it's really, it's unfortunate. And so for any of you guys that ever thought about, for whatever reason, you wanted to donate sperm, either to help a friend out that may be in a situation like this, or just to do it to make some cash, be aware this can come back to bite you in the ass later on in time. So maybe you got to reconsider, because, again, depending on how the laws are at the time, someone could just donate and all of a sudden they're on the hook for child support and things like that 2 decades later. Could totally ruin your life. So I'm going to go through this article here, and this takes place in Canada, okay? And I know from what people have told me in some of the comments that, Canada is definitely kind of crazy with regards to how it is with men and women. I did a video about never moving in with your girlfriend, and some guy told me over there, you move in with a girl, and after a short period of time, it's like she is almost like a common law marriage, and she can get half your shit. It's crazy. So the title of the article is, Sperm Donor Sued for Support Almost 20 Years After Donation, Argues New Ontario Law Protects Him. Starts off saying, nearly 20 years after a gay man donated his sperm to a former classmate, he's being sued for child support in a potentially landmark case that serves as the first major test of a new Ontario law. The first known case of a gamete donor being sued for support in Canada was supposed to return to an Ontario courtroom this week, but was put over until February, when Michael Ranson's lawyers are seeking a dismissal based on recent changes to family law. Their argument rests on Bill 28, which became law in December and updated family law to better address reproductive technologies such as sperm donors and surrogacy. Clarity that was lacking when the donation was first made almost 2 decades ago in a California clinic. Legislation passed in Ontario in December, known as the All Families Are Equal Act, stirred a lot of controversy over the idea that it erased the words mother and father from the law and birth certificates. But the sweeping bill also made many changes to strengthen and update family law for the age of reproductive technologies. And by the way, guys, this was sent to Ash, who sent me this good article. Thank you to him. And this is from 2017, so I'm going to be following up to see what happened with this. But I thought this was a good thing to read about, just showing you what can happen. You try to do something nice for somebody, and it bites you in the ass 20 years later. And since obviously men donate sperm, be aware of what can happen. And if you know anybody who wants to do this, be aware what could happen here in the States. Before it was passed, critics raised several issues with the bill, many of which were addressed by amendments to the legislation that legal experts explained to the National Post. Now, it's going to go to a bunch of amendments, which is boring as hell, so I'm going to skip over that part and get into the details about this guy and this woman, what they're going through, and you guys can just read that on your own. I have a link to the article in the description below. Skipping past the legal mumbo jumbo, it's going to get back into those too. So it says, Ranson, the guy, first met Amy Colmore when they were in medical school and discussed the fact she wanted to have children on her own if she never married by her late 30s. That sound familiar to anybody? He agreed to donate one day, but claims in affidavits that he never intended to be a parent. She says the opposite and felt she had no choice but to serve this court order and is seeking interim financial relief throughout the trial in addition to ongoing and retroactive child support. Cullimore notes Ransom has the means to support the now teenagers. He makes more than $280,000 a year in Canadian money and has a job at the World Bank in Europe, while she makes over $247,000 Canadian dollars a year as a doctor in Ontario, according to court documents. So, I don't know what the cost of living is like in Ontario, but I would imagine $247,000 Canadian dollars a year is still pretty damn good. And am I supposed to believe she can't afford this? Come on here. Which, by the way, this was her idea. She wanted this. What a load of bullshit. The potentially precedent settings case began in a California clinic when Ransom donated sperm that would be sent to Cullimore in Ontario. It took a few years, but eventually 2 children were born in the early 2000s. Ransom stayed in their lives, serving as a, it says in quotes, benevolent uncle, in his words, but Cullimore says he self-identified as dad, and they called him dad and always referred to him as their father. This is what the lady is saying what was going on. But regardless, he wasn't their father, and obviously they had an agreement, but clearly that agreement didn't mean shit. Though they never lived together or even in the same city, both parties agree Ransom was generous financially over the years, supporting private school costs, at least partially paying for trips for the children, and putting $20,000 in an educational savings account. But they differ on many other facts. She says his parents are like grandparents. He says they haven't seen the kids since 2010. She says she felt obligated to sign a written agreement giving her sole custody and all financial responsibility. He says it was her idea. A lot of he said, she said here, and unfortunately this guy, again, wants to do a nice thing to help out a friend, and now she screws him over. And there obviously wasn't a problem raising these kids all these other years, obviously when she was probably making less money early on in her career, but now, all of a sudden, now she wants a payday. Even though you can see right here, she's a doctor, makes a hell of a lot of money. The case marks a new twist in fertility law in an age when more and more Canadians are seeking sperm and egg donors. But Cullimore's lawyer, in an email to the National Post, said it has nothing to do with the fact that he was a sperm donor. Instead, her case is laid out in other court documents, rests on the fact that he acted as their father. Now, I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer. I have no idea about the wisdom of that. Like maybe, for instance, if he donated the sperm and then he was out of the picture forever, maybe her lawyers wouldn't think that she had grounds to come after the guy. But he obviously was trying to do a nice thing, helping out a friend, was helping out other things financially to do a nice thing. And now she wants to, how can you say, squeeze some more blood from the stone. You know? And it's crazy. It's ridiculous. But again, no good deed goes unpunished. And by the way, guys, in the era where we're going to have more and more women get to their 30s and want to have children, but realize they're off the market in terms of guys wanting to marry them, a lot more are going to be probably going down this road. So for the guys that donated sperm, if any guys ever do that, be aware that something like this could happen to you down the road, even if you didn't have anything to do with the woman. Seriously, it's not worth it. And under the law, that intent is crucial. Ransom's lawyers say a case known as AA versus BB says a precedent in Ontario common law that protects non-biological parents of children born of reproductive technologies because they intended to be parents. In that case, a pair of lesbian mothers sued for the right to both be acknowledged as parents alongside their sperm donor and won the right for the first time for more than 2 people to be recognized as parents. Ransom's lawyers argue the inverse of that precedent is also true. Bill 28, they write, was designed in part to remedy exactly the kind of situation as the case at bar, where a gamete donor is sued for child support, let alone almost 20 years after the donation. 20 years. That's a long time. The guy's being quoted as saying, "My relationship with the children is that of an uncle or friend, not that of a parent." Ranson states in an affidavit. He also said the mother involved got the courts involved without any prior discussion. So in his mind, everything's going good, and all of a sudden, just boom. Next thing you know, he's being served, and she wants to sue him for all this money, even though this guy did a nice thing for her. It's common in sperm donation cases for the man to stay tangentially involved in the offspring's lives. In some fertility circles, it's jokingly referred to as the spunkle. Ranson's lawyers, Kelly Jordan and Shirley Leviton, said in the fall. At that time, they warned a legal loophole left Ranson and any other sperm donors vulnerable to child support lawsuits such as this. Now, in new court documents filed this week, they say Ontario Bill 28 has made it clear sperm donors with no intent to parent are protected. They also argue the law was drafted with the intent to be applied retroactively because it's remedial in nature and should be applied in such in this case. For her part, the mother involved says she can't cope with the financial burden of raising both children, and Cullimore says the now teenagers have been hurt both by the lack of contact with Ransom since he was served in December 2015 and the attention the trial garnered. So the lady's complaining that the kids are hurt financially, even though she makes $247,000 a year Canadian money. She's a doctor, professional, and never seemed to have a problem with it prior to all this. And then she's complaining after this started that the kids are not seeing the guy. So she sues him for all this, destroying their friendship, destroying what he thought he was doing to help her out. And now she's bitching and complaining the kids can't see the guy. She's something. Gee, I wonder why that she had to have kids on her own. Maybe because no man could stand to be around her. None of the lawyers involved agreed to comment for this story. The Ontario Attorney General's office said it could not comment on the interpretation of the law that came into effect on January 1st. So it could not clarify whether Bill 28 was intended to be applied retroactively. But legal experts say that's not unheard of, especially in cases of family law, and certain aspects of Bill 28 were expressly designed to apply retroactively so that non-biological lesbian mothers would no longer have to adopt their own children. Cindy Wasser, a lawyer who testified at Bill 28 hearings, said the AG's office made it clear the adoption aspect of Bill 28 applied retroactively. Although she said it's possible this case may need to proceed further to make it clear how the new law affects the donation side of family law. While Cullimore's argument rests on the position that Ranson presented himself as the children's father, his lawyers write that if he's forced to pay child support, it punishes him for something he never would have done if he thought he'd be on the hook financially decades down the line. Exactly. If spending 2 weeks a year with the children and giving gratuitous monetary gifts is all that is required for someone to be endowed with parental rights and responsibilities, there is something alarming amiss. They write, to rewrite history when it's too late for him to turn back the clock is repugnant. Exactly. That's crazy. So guys, this is the world we live in right now. This is why I do these videos. Again, because the deck is stacked against us in so many different ways. It's ridiculous. And it's just a shame. Again, this guy does a nice thing to help a friend out, and decades later, she screws him over. And I absolutely believe the guy in this situation here, and I'm not at all surprised that this happens. So again, for any of you guys that, for whatever reason, would think to donate sperm, whether to raise some quick cash, or you're trying to help somebody out, or you know somebody that's thinking about this, be aware that this can come back to bite you in the ass one day. You try to do something nice for somebody, and they turn around and screw you over for money. It's sad. And I'm going to look this up afterwards and find out what happened and do a follow-up to this, because I'm very curious what happened. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.